Hey, welcome to the Backyard Professor Responds videos. I have been very fortunate in my life to be able to run across the incredible materials of philosopher and classicist David Fideler. And one of his better books, now he introduced this book and edited it, the Pythagorean Source Book and Library, all about Pythagoras. Truly a delightful book. But Fiedler caught my eye when years ago I found his book, Jesus Christ, Son of God, The Ancient Cosmology and Early Christian Symbolism, which is still one of the most stunning, spectacular books from antiquity and the classics about the symbolism of Jesus Christ in early Christianity that I have ever read. I've read that book multiple times. Then I was very fortunate to find his series of journals that he edited, and he got some of the world's great philosophers, artists, symbolists, musicians, scientists, etc., to contribute to this incredible journal called Alexandria. There's 5 volumes. I was very fortunate that I was able to get all 5 of the volumes, of which I absolutely cherish. You can see I've got all kinds of markers in every one of them. Truly magnificent studies from antiquity, the Greeks, the ancient Hebrews, the ancient Greek science, the Renaissance, modern concepts in quantum physics, in mathematics, in music and harmony, in the various geometrical configurations of sacred geometry and their meaning. One of the most stunningly insightful looks and demonstrations of the value of the antique literatures, especially the Greeks, was this one, Restoring the Soul of the World by David Fideler. I love that book. I love this man. He is still alive and he is starting a new adventure. He contacted me a year ago and asked me if I was interested in being a part of this new adventure. And I said, yes, I am. And therefore, he just gave me a notice just today, and I am already responding to it, of his Living Ideas Journal. Now, this is his article called Renaissance Optimism. And I want to share a couple of ideas in this Renaissance optimism. For my particular audience, we have atheists, we have Christians, we have ex-Christians, we have Mormons and ex-Mormons. There have been some Jewish folk who have visited my information and my podcasts and videos. There are musicians and mathematicians, and yes, even scientists. So it's an eclectic mix, which is exactly how I like it, because I am of the belief that through the concourse, discourse, and exchange of everyone's point of view and ideas, we can improve our lives. We have the capability within us. And this is one of my main messages that I always try to bring out, because for whatever reason, it seems like the organized religions of the world have gotten to the point to where they beat down people. And this is so unfortunate. They give us less reason to believe in our own personal spiritual powers. They psychologically damage us to some extent, greater or lesser. I've been through it with you. The thing I have always appreciated about David Fideler is his optimism. but it is his overarching spirituality because he is in tune with the ancient spiritual cultures and philosophies. And I love this about him. I can't help it. In this particular article, by whom I consider to be my friend, David Fideler, someday I would love to have him on this show and do a series of discussions with you to let him share with you his ideas. I will put a link in the description below this of where you can find this Living Ideas journal. It is going to be sensational. In the Renaissance, people believed they were witnessing the birth of a new and promising era, a time in which civilization was being renewed. And that always seems to be Fiedler's optimistic outlook, restoring the soul of the world, building up people. Because, and he basically says in this, in Florence, thinkers imagined their time to be a departure from the supposed Dark Ages, in addition to reviving the lost cultures and the lost arts and the lost philosophies of ancient Greece and Rome. And so, this self consciousness that the Renaissance thinkers developed, enveloped, adopted, adapted, and threw back out in the world with their amazing accomplishments was they had a place in history, and it was a state of mind. What was that state of mind? Fiedler observes, we must always remember, quoting Kenneth Bartlett, the scholar, that remember that the Renaissance was a state of mind in so many ways. The concrete effects followed from those fundamental attitudes. And what was the attitude? Optimism. Belief in yourself as a human being, that if you set your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. That doesn't mean there's not going to be bad times in our lives. That doesn't mean we're always going to win. We will lose at times. We get that. But that is not the track to get the most out of this beautiful thing we call life. I love this. The Renaissance belief in the human potential was perfectly embodied in a single line by the distinguished writer, architect, and philosopher Leon Battista Alberti, widely regarded as the original Renaissance man. Alberti boldly declared, human beings can accomplish whatever they wish if they have the will. That's one of his magnificent domes in churches that he designed and they built. There's a wonderful statue of Alberti. Very noble looking man, yes. This profound optimism about human nature sheds light on the prevailing mindset of the Renaissance. However, Alberti also acknowledged that achieving greatness was no easy feat. No art, however minor, demands less than total dedication. So this is the theme, a dedication from the heart, loving what you're doing and loving who you are and loving what you're becoming. You don't have to remain dark and feeling like you're not good enough for the rest of your life. Others who stamp that on you, you can let that bounce off and reflect back goodness, because from within you can and are good. Don't let the bad, the miserable, the hate, the pessimism dampen that to the point to where it extinguishes it in you. You have it within you to do this life in a pleasurable, delightful, totally fulfilling fulfilling way. I love this kind of optimism. Only David Fideler has brought it out in such. Now, he does it in a scholarly way, but he does it in a human way. He does it in a way that is completely upbuilding, and the examples that he picks from the Middle Ages, the examples he picks from the ancient Greeks, the ancient Pythagoreans, the Egyptians, the ancient musicians, the early Christian materials, the way he brings this about through such an amazingly broad educated way is nothing less than stunning to me. I love this new adventure that he's on, and he's letting me become a part of this, and I'm going to share it with you so that you too can become a part of this optimism snowball that is beginning to grow with so many people in our day, even though our world to us appears to be pretty doggone dark. I get that. There is a bright light shining in David Fideler and his incredible new journal, the Living Ideas Journal. So the idea is utilizing the knowledge of the ancients. They do have something to contribute to our psychological and psychic well-beings, believe it or not. So there is study involved. Absolutely. Through that study, getting out of the dark ages of our own souls, we can begin to acquire the greater light. I love this. And the ideas in the Renaissance just exploded. That is one of Alberti's architectural marvels. I mean, look at that gorgeous building. The buildings we build today are just nothing but just boxes. They're so boring. This is absolutely beautiful to see. And then this magnificent dome, I have to show you this. 4 million bricks of the Cathedral of Florence. And this is Brunelleschi's dome, is a marvel of engineering. And it is the largest masonry dome in the world. There's the dome. Look at that close up. Look at those people on the top of that dome. That'll give you a context for the magnificence of this kind of architectural miracle marvel that graces and beautifies the landscape, not these stupid boxes of steel and glass that are just going up forever but have no design to them. So some medieval thinkers, and this was the point I wanted to make this response to my friend David Fideler. Some medieval thinkers harbored a less than flattering view of human nature. Now, this is the essence of who we are, our human nature. And this perspective was exemplified by Pope Innocent III in his book On the Wretchedness of the Human Condition, and he portrayed humans as depraved and wicked. He argued that the human body was shameful, characterized by nakedness, and ultimately sinful and disgusting, and he couldn't have been more wrong. David Fideler examines the proportions of the human body in ancient art and architecture, and then he shows the proportions, the various in the connections, the interweaving of our bodies with dimensions that are beautiful, such as the phi spiral, etc. By contrast, the Renaissance thinkers coming away from the medieval Pope's limited understanding of human nature, the Renaissance view flowered into something so glorious, so optimistic, so intelligible and intelligent that, thank goodness, we have this magnificent flowering of art, architecture, literature, mathematics, etc., because it became the mindset. And that's what I want to emphasize. That's what David Fideler emphasizes, the mindset. And it was positive. It was on the dignity and excellence of man, the astonishing dignity of human nature, and mankind's unbelievable excellence is what they looked for. And we have Michelangelo's David and Botticelli's Birth of Venus as art pieces. The philosopher Pico della Mirandola celebrated human dignity and our capacity for self-creation. Believe in ourselves. Realize that if we set goals and we want those things bad enough, we can accomplish them. That's how champions are made. I just recently had a world champion wrestler on my program, Mark Schultz. His excellence is because he focused on that. We can too, in whatever we choose to do this with. Renaissance thinkers believed that humans could shape their own destinies. Pico eloquently encapsulated this notion by asserting that humans had no predetermined place in creation. Rather, they could ascend to the level of the angels. This is Renaissance optimism at its highest, yes, or sink to the level of vicious monsters. And then today, the remarkable minds and works of the Renaissance can continue to inspire and inform our endeavors. And this is what David Fideler is trying to do. And I wholeheartedly endorse this. I'm involved with this. And I'm going to encourage you, my readers. I'll put the link to this in the description. Check this out. This is so exciting to me because rather than being diminished by pessimism, we don't want a diminished sense of human potential. We want the accomplishment which comes from believing in ourselves. That is so invaluable to have that kernel of truth, diamond truth in our very souls. That's what I love about Fideler. He is bringing this work. We can create great works of lasting value. So my response to David Fideler is a very reverent thank you, one of my very favorite teachers. Thank you for bringing me into this aspiration of having personal value. And this is what I want to pass on to my audience. Let's all jump on this bandwagon and let's all rise together in value, in appreciation, in happiness, in optimism, and in love. That's what David Fideler is doing. And I wholeheartedly agree with all of it. And I hope you'll join me on this fun adventure.